Hello dear students, today we'll discuss physiology of homeostasis. It's as per the NMC competency PY 1.2 Principles of Homeostasis. This is the competency table for general physiology. You can see these are the different competencies given, and based on that mode of teaching them is given. So we'll be learning today the second one, that is this one, that is homeostasis. So let's start with today's talk. Objectives of today's lecture is define homeostasis, explain the feedback mechanism of homeostatic regulation, give the examples of homeostatic regulations, understand that dysfunctions are mainly due to failure of homeostatic regulation. Now let's start with the most basic, means the level of human organization, how human body is basically organized. Up to your 12th standard you have learned that the chemical level is basically atoms are there, carbon atom, hydrogen atom, oxygen atom, nitrogen, like this. They combine to form a molecule which further combine to form a cell. So the most basic basic unit of a human body or organization is a cell. Now these cells are of different types. Cells which are modified to help in the contraction are called as a muscle cell, like this is a smooth muscle. Cells forming in the brain, they are called as a neuron. Cells specialized to transport oxygen, they are called as RBCs. Cells involved in the defense are called the WBCs. Like this, all different body cells are there, which are modified into different function. Now these cells basically combine to form a tissue along with the supporting cells. In this, actually the functioning cells are there plus supporting cells are there, so it is called as a tissue. We mentioned as the tissue. Now this tissue again combined to form an organ, like this here, connective tissues, smooth muscles and other tissues combined to form this is stomach. Similarly, some cells combines to form a kidney. Hepatocytes and other cells combine to form a liver. Neurons combine to form a brain. A part of the neuron combine to form the spinal cord. So like this, organ is formed. And this organ along with other supporting tissues forms the system. Like this, the liver, our stomach, duodenum, jejunum, these all combine to form a system called as a digestive system. Similarly, the heart, blood vessels combine to form the cardiovascular system. The lungs, trachea, bronchi combine to form respiratory system. So like this, basically if you come down from here to here, you can see that each and every system is nothing but bunch of combination of organs, which is nothing but bunch of tissues, which is nothing but bunch of cells coming down to molecules. So this is basically organization, which is most basic. So ultimately, to keep this human body healthy, that means to keep all systems healthy, you have to come back to the system. We have to focus down to organ, which is the organ involved. We have come down to the tissues, ultimately landing to the cell. So making a person healthy means ultimately we have to look down to this cell, whether it is healthy or not. The environment of this cell is healthy or not, we have to look for this one. So this is the human body, which is formed by this so many systems. So level of organization, as I mentioned, chemical level is the most basic. The atoms are there, which you have learned in the 12th. Combination of this forms the cells, that is cellular level. They form the tissues, group of cells and materials surrounding them that work together to perform a particular function. The organ is actually at organ level, different tissues are combined to form an organ, which forms a system. So we'll be learning in physiology almost 12 to 15 systems we'll be learning. Cardiovascular system, digestive system, nervous system, muscular system. So like this, which is nothing but bunch of organs, ultimately coming to organism or human body. So when our human body It's disease. So the disease goes back to the cell level actually. Some of the cells of the body are defective. So our job as a doctor or as a physician or as a clinician is we have to come down to cell level. What exactly is the problem at cell? We have to look forward, backward, which system is affected, in the system which organ is affected, in the organ which tissue is affected, in the tissue which cell is affected. And sometimes you have to go back to chemical level to find the root cause, like in case of malignancy, cancers. So like this is the level of diagnosis basically. This will make you a perfect physician with a good knowledge. So these are the bunch of system. You can see this is the respiratory system. This is the digestive system. This is the excretory system. So like this we are having a bunch of systems in the body. Now if you take a section of any of the organ, ultimately see what you will form. You will find this bunch of cells surrounded by capillaries in that one. So whether you take a section of a lungs like this, or you take a section at the GIT or a section at the kidney, everything will be like this. It is bunch of cells and surrounding blood vessels surrounding it. So this is the organization. Now in this, as I mentioned, if you take a section at the liver, again you will find this only. So each and every organ is nothing but bunch of cells with a capillary surrounding which will provide constantly nutrition to it. So this is our basic cellular network along with the blood fluid surrounding it one. So this cell, in this there is a fluid inside. This fluid is called as the ICF, that is intracellular fluid, and fluid surrounding it is called as the ECF or called as extracellular fluid. Simple terminologies. Fluid present inside the cell is called as the ICF, intracellular fluid. Fluid outside is called as the extracellular fluid. So if you focus now, this is the environment in which our cell is living. So our cell is living in the environment of ECF. If you see this diagram, this is our external environment. All air is touching, everything is in this external environment. And this is basically the internal environment of a cell. A cell is surrounded by ECF. And this is being constantly, you can see the exchange here. Constantly there is exchange of nutrients, oxygen, all requirements. Means whatever we need now, whatever we eating is ultimately converted down to small molecules. For example, carbohydrates is coming down to glucose, protein is broken down to amino acids, fats are lipid is broken down to fatty acids. All vitamins, minerals ultimately are basically surrounding this cell and providing nutrition. So ultimately our nutrition is reaching down to the cell. So this is called as the internal end of a body, and this is to be kept constant. And basically what we are discussing today, homeostasis, is nothing but constancy of this ECF. So this is called as the internal environment, that is ECF, extracellular fluid, and especially this fluid which is surrounding between the cell, it is called as interstitial fluid. So interstitial fluid or ECF, this is called as basically internal environment of the body. So homeostasis, homeo means sameness, stasis means standing still, is condition of equilibrium or balance in the body's internal environment due to constant interaction of body's many regulatory mechanism. So it is a dynamic, dynamic means constant changes are happening, it is constantly maintained. In response to changing conditions, the body's equilibrium can shift among points in the narrow range that is compatible with maintaining the life. Constantly the fluctuations are, because we are not sitting, we are not lying down, we are doing constant activities. We are walking, we are standing, we are moving the upstairs. Constant fluctuation are happening in the, we are exposed to different environment. There is a cold, hot, different environment constantly is coming. So because of that, internally changes are happening, but they are brought back to normal constantly. That is called as homeostasis. So ultimately, maintenance of constancy of internal moments, maintenance of basically ECF, or ECF is brought back to the normal constantly. So fluid within the cell is called as intracellular fluid. Outside is called as the ECF. Now ECF that fills the narrow space between the cells of tissues is called as interstitial fluid. Now we'll see that ECF are of different types. The names are different based on the location in the body. For example, ECF in the blood vessel is called as the blood plasma. We level at the blood. In the lymphatics, it is called as the lymph. In and around the brain and spinal cord, it is called as a cerebrospinal fluid, that is CSF. In the joints, it is called as a synovial fluid. And ECF of eyes is called as aqueous humor, vitreous body. So simply whatever fluid outside our cell is called as a extracellular fluids. Names are different as the proper functioning of body cell depends on precise regulation of composition of this interstitial fluid in the surrounding. So suppose liver is there, liver will function normally only when the fluid which is reaching the liver is providing everything to the liver cells. It is providing the oxygen, taking out the CO2, giving glucose, amino acid, everything. So the ECF has to be kept constant to have a normal body function. So the interstitial fluid or a part of ECF is called as the internal environment. Now how it is controlled? So there is a control system for this homeostasis. In the body there are receptors basically which are sensing. For example, the receptor who will sense the oxygen and CO2 level. As it is a chemistry, it is called as a chemoreceptor. There are receptors which will check the blood pressure. They are called as a baroreceptor. The receptor which will check the osmotic balance, that is sodium, potassium, they are called as osmoreceptor. So the receptors are there. They will send signal to the control system. Now based on that it will give the output. Now output will respond back and bring it back to the normal. So like this, there is a cyclical phenomenon that is called as a feedback loop. So let's see what are the different types of feedback loops which are working to maintain the homeostasis. Now take example, the blood pressure. Suppose the body's blood pressure is there. It is being sensed by the receptors in the blood vessel. It is called as a baroreceptor. Baro means pressure. Receptor means they are sensing the change in the they are the sensors. So the baroreceptors in the blood vessel will sense change in pressure. They will go to the control system in the brain. It is called as a vasomotor center. Now they will give feedback to the heart and blood vessel to bring the pressure back to the normal. Now let's see what is happening routinely. Suppose because of some stimulus there is increase in pressure. Blood pressure gets increased because of any reason. Simple reason, you become very anxious or somebody scolded you, you become in tension, so blood pressure rises. So what will happen now? The blood pressure rises, it will be sensed by the baroreceptor. They will send signal to vasomotor center. And what will do? They will try to calm down the heart by giving them feedback. So decrease in heart rate and decrease in blood pressure will take place. So return of homeostasis back to the normal. Blood pressure again becomes back to the normal. So the baroreceptors are there in the body which are sensing change in the pressure, and they will bring the blood pressure back to the normal to maintain the homeostasis. Because if pressure is normal, then only you will have a proper diffusion of fluid across the cell membrane. We will be discussing during transport. There has to be constant pressure, then only you will have a transport across cell membrane from ICF to ECF, ECF to ICF. Otherwise, transport will not take place. So here, blood pressure is one parameter which got disturbed because of any stimulus. Now the body is bringing back to the normal. Okay. So now see, as there was stimulus was increase in pressure because of anything. Now this leads to decrease in the pressure. Means this stimulus is increasing and the response will be decreasing. It is negative. So that's why increasing lead to decreasing pressure. So it is called as a negative feedback mechanism. and it is most common in the body. This feedback mechanism is bringing things back to the normal. So increase in blood pressure itself will stimulate, and this will lead to a decrease in pressure. It is called as a negative feedback system. So one of the key system of homeostasis is negative feedback mechanisms. Example, today we have discussed is blood pressure regulation. So many are there in the book, if you will go through, so many are there. So many, blood sugar regulation, n number, you can go in the textbook, you will find. The important thing for us to learn is that when we know that this is the system of regulation, suppose a person comes with hypertension, blood pressure is raised, that means there is some disruption in this loop. If you measure blood pressure of a person, normal blood pressure is around 120 millimeters of mercury, around 15 plus minus, but you found that pressure is now 160 millimeters of mercury. It is not coming back to the normal. That means now, as a doctor, you have to start thinking, where can be the problem in this system? Why it is not bringing back to the normal? Whether there is a problem of this receptor or nerves which are carrying these impulses to the sensor center, or there is a problem in this vasomotor center, or there is a problem in this nerve impulse which is coming from vasomotor center to the heart, or is there any problem in the heart, or the problem in the blood vessel, or problem in the feedback loop. Now this is the key of a physician or clinician, his knowledge. We have to find it out what is the reason. Then only we can start a proper treatment for a person. So that's why we should learn each and every system perfectly, how there is a feedback mechanism works in the system, and when a person is coming with abnormality, why abnormality is there. So same system is working for the respiratory system, same is working for the kidneys, like this. So we have to learn what is the feedback mechanism in this system. Now second, we'll take one more example, stretching of a cervix. This is a stimulus. Now receptor or stress receptors are present in the cervix. Center is again going in the brain. It is in the posterior pituitary gland. Effector organ, muscles in the wall of uterus contracts more forcefully. There is a stretching and they are contracting more forcefully. Baby's body stretches cervix more. So see here, increasing stretching leads to further increasing stretch. So it is in same direction. So this is called as a positive feedback mechanism. The stimulus is leading to further rise. So that is called as a positive feedback mechanism. In the negative, increase was leads to decreasing, but here increase leads to increasing. And this is the basically mechanism of childbirth. Whenever the baby's head is in the cervix, it is stretching the cervix. This will further lead to contraction of uterus and further stretching of cervix till the baby is delivered. So it is called as a positive feedback mechanism. Similarly, in case of blood coagulation system, similar system works. Whenever there is an initiation of blood clotting system, initial enzyme gets activated, that leads to activation of a cascade of enzymes, and that leads to coagulation system to work. So like this, positive feedback mechanism also work in the body at some place, and at some place negative feedback mechanism work. Again, as a doctor, you have to check in any particular system there is abnormality. We have to find it out what is abnormality, whether we have to first check it out whether the system works on positive or negative feedback mechanism, and where is the problem in this cascade. So this is the most basic of human physiology or human system, where to find what is the cause of any disease, you have to look back to this most basic thing, where is the defect. So this system is called as a positive feedback mechanism. So it is basically strengthening or reinforcing a change in the system in the body. Now ultimate product is basically delivery of the baby. Once baby is delivered, system stops. Now ultimately, when the feedback mechanism is working, how far it is effective? It is called as the gain basically. So how much is the gain in a control system in the normal, and from here it can go in abnormality also. So when abnormality is there, you have to find out what gain is not effective. We'll take example. Suppose a large volume of blood is transfused into a person whose baroreceptor pressure control system is not working. So what will happen now when large volume of blood is entered in the body? Arterial blood pressure will rise from 100, it will rise up to 175 millimeters of mercury. Now let's assume that same volume of blood is injected into a same person when the baroreceptor system is functioning, and this time the pressure rises only 25. That means it has gone 125 millimeters of mercury only. That means the feedback control system has caused a correction of 50 millimeters of mercury. That is, from 175 it is reaching to 125. Means if baroreceptor is not functioning, pressure might go up to 175, but when system is working, it is going only up to 125. So the correction the system is doing is 50 millimeters of mercury. That means the ultimate gain is, correction was 50, error remain is 25. That means ultimately gain is -2. That means it is not again perfect. It is bringing it back to the normal, to the near, and it is taking some time to do. So this is called as a gain of a system. Now this is different in different systems in the body. For baroreceptor it is different, for temperature regulation is different, for kidney it is different, but gains are there. But from here it is evident that it is not perfect. It is bringing towards near the normal. So to summarize what we have learned today, what is homeostasis? We have explained the feedback mechanism involved in this, and there are two feedback mechanisms. One is a positive, one is a negative. And homeostasis means basically maintenance of constancy of internal environment, that is ECF. Examples we have learned. Two examples we have taken. For the negative, we have discussed negative feedback mechanism of blood pressure regulation, and for positive feedback mechanism we will discuss mechanism of cervical stretching and uterine contraction. And dysfunction of this will lead to basically diseases, and we have to find out what are the cause of this one. So here we are finishing today's talk on homeostasis. Thank you.